Hey everyone, I just wanted to hop on here real quick and give you a heads up that the Weekend Warrior Club membership on Patreon is closing its doors to new members. And the very last day that you can sign up will be Wednesday, September 10th. That's right. You have until Wednesday, September 10th to sign up as a Weekend Warrior Club member on Patreon. After that, I am shutting down my doors to any new members until further notice. That's right. I'm shutting down my doors until further notice. At some point, I will be opening it back up to the public, but it'll be at a higher rate. Everyone that signs up between now and September 10th will be grandfathered in indefinitely as long as you hold the club membership at $6 a month. And for $6 a month, you get 5% off your orders to Jake's Bait and Tackle, 10% off your orders to Catoctin Creek Rods, 10% off your orders to Tiger Crankbaits, ad-free episodes of the show, members-only content, members giveaways, our private Facebook group community, and of course, our fishing tournaments that are backed by the Fishing the DMV podcast, our sponsors, and myself included. Tournaments such as the Sizzling Summer Showdown, Frostbite Frenzy, and so many more fun events that we have here that I promote for you guys. You have until September 10th to sign up, and then I'm shutting down access or entry to our club until further notice. At some point in 2026 or 2027, I will open it back up again, but it'll be at a much higher rate. Link in the episode description down below. Thank you so much. You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Fishing the DMV. I'm your host, Thomas Ahrens, and today we are heading back to the Chesapeake Bay. I know, guys, we're getting closer to September here. The bay's starting to heat up with different things, and I really don't like to go with just also the big names. I like to get grassroots people that are local to the place that have a story to tell. And today, I have on Bucky with Tri Waves Fishing on YouTube. I really want to hear his story and kind of what's going on down there. Sir, thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm stoked to be on the show and talk about some fishing here and what's going on here in Chesapeake Bay and Hampton Roads area. So definitely excited. Let's get into some fishing.
So as always with first time guests on here, like, what's your story? How did not only did you get the fishing bug, but YouTube?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. But the first part of that is, I grew up here in Chesapeake, Virginia, born and raised here, and grew up just around the water with my granddad having boats as a kid and just the typical 5-year-old kid going out fishing with their dad. And I just got hooked, no pun intended, when I was a kid. And something about being on the water to me, I've always said, is like a mental therapy, and it's a way for me to kind of disconnect from reality, right? And not worry about the day-to-day stresses of life. So since I've been a kid, been fascinated with just being out in the water, and then kind of the older and older I got, when I got more into fishing, it shifted kind of more from freshwater, being a kid, throwing out a worm and a bobber for some bass or some perch, and then get more into the saltwater side. So been anything revolving fishing. I love being around the water, if it's jet skiing or if it's wakeboarding. Obviously my passion's really fishing, but just love being out on the water. And then to the second part of that question, to the YouTube side, I'm not an expert by any means on cameras and editing, but, a couple years ago, I was with a couple buddies who were kind of into filming and YouTube and stuff. And they're like, you're out all the time fishing and taking pictures. They're like, what are your thoughts on, maybe starting a YouTube channel? And at first it was just, by no means, I have no experts. I'm not the IT specialist and editing and then the more and more I started thinking about it, I'm like, well, it would be kind of cool just to start with putting a GoPro on your chest or on the boat, and then watching your footage from the day. And then finally just kind of said, well, whatever, I guess we'll give it a shot. So I think we're on like year 3 of when I originally started the channel. And it's been a lot of fun, man. There's been a lot of changes. And, I'm married with 2 younger kids, a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old, and, busy with work and life. So I don't get out like a lot of the guys and my buddies who are single or no kids who are going out every day or putting 4 or 5 videos out, a day. But I get out when I can and try to edit, and make videos. But at the end of the day, it's just all about, the passion and enjoying going out and fishing. And if I can make a video and put it out, great. If not, we'll get it on the next trip. So long story short, that's a little about me and kind of the YouTube side.
When did you think YouTube was going to become a thing? I mean, it's one thing when you're releasing 1 or 2 videos, got 100 subscribers. I mean, you're well over 3,000, I believe. Which at that point, it becomes kind of like, I know with this thing, it becomes a rhythm. It becomes a part of what you do, and you think about to stay consistent to get to where you are.
Yeah. So I think exactly to that point, there's so much of the algorithm, if you will, behind YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. And I can't speak to a ton of that stuff because I'm not super educated, but I think the thing what's really cool about YouTube, it's brought a different creative side out of kind of maybe some of the strengths I didn't know I had. And what I mean by that is a lot of times I'll go out fishing. I won't even bring my cameras because I just kind of want to relax. But if I'm going out and I'm deliberately trying to make a video, it's kind of cool because you're worried about speaking, you're doing intros, and if I'm throwing up the drone, what kind of angles I want, and then if I'm doing a specific video on a how-to, I'm going to incorporate more of what type of baits I'm using, what's my setup, what's my rod and reel combo setup, etc., where I'm at fishing, or it might be just a quick video going out, catch some fish, throwing it up on YouTube. So that's what's really cool about YouTube, is that you can create your own content, but you can kind of target to different audiences. Because I know, looking on the analytics side of YouTube, that is very fascinating to me, is you can see where people are watching your videos, how long they're watching it, and how you can change and develop your videos to try to meet a different target audience, or, try to capture a completely new audience, right? So, like I said, I'm not a YouTube analytics specialist by any means, but I am fascinated to see how you can develop the way you shoot videos, how you edit them, and how some will do good. Like some of my most viewed videos, one's got like 250,000 views, and to me was like one of the stupidest videos I've ever made. And now implementing stuff I did in that, and seeing other videos, try harder that don't do as well. So it's YouTube and social media, as it's constantly changing. So it's kind of trying to adapt and see what the trends are, see what's popular, how people are making their own videos, what you can incorporate in your own videos, what you like they're doing, what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. And like I said, it's just constantly changing. So kind of just trying to stay with the flow there.
Yeah. And you can't.
Taco in the Bub. I had a video up there.
I was like, those catch and cook videos, though, man, they do really, really good.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Like, you can't, it's hard to chase the virality. I think a lot of people say, like, oh, I just want to go viral. It's like this thing, I want to win the lottery. Like, I think Mr. Beast is the only one that's figured out how to make that formula work. And you can burn yourself out too. Like, you got to just do what you're passionate about and just keep chopping wood consistently. And that's, I think how you got to where you are.
Yeah, I think that's an extremely accurate statement. When I first started, I was so motivated, not in a wrong way, but I think I was burning myself out, where I'm like, I got to get out. I got to film this video. I got to change things up. And it kind of took away some of the fun of it, right? Because I'm like, the whole purpose of going out is fishing. If I make a video, that's great, but I want to go out and enjoy being out in the water, like I said, for the mental therapy. So I've chilled out and trying to take it, I don't want to say not too seriously, but at the end of the day, it's fishing, right? And this isn't life or death. So it's like, let's go out, let's have fun. I'll go out with buddies. Like I said, sometimes we're shooting videos and shooting content, making videos, and then sometimes we're not. So at the end of the day, just have fun with it and get out as many videos as we can and go on to the next one.
Mm-hmm. So, with all that said, when did you get your first boat and kind of get out there onto the water? Because I think, I've had people on the show and they talk about getting a John boat and doing a pond, but the ocean and the bay, that's a different animal, or is that just culturally like what you guys are used to out there?
So it's really both. So I 100% started exactly what you're saying. Like I said, I grew up around my granddad's. He had bigger power boats and sailboats, which were cool to play on, but we weren't really fishing off of those. Had buddies growing up in high school with boats. We'd go out fishing, and then I bought my first John boat when I was in high school. It was a 12-foot aluminum bass tracker, an old boat, and I built out like a casting deck on it out of wood, and bought an old 1983 9.9 Johnson. And I thought that thing was a yacht because, it was my first boat, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So we'd fish a ton inshore on that thing. We'd fish, freshwater kind of in high school. And then older I got, we'd start going out into like Lynn Haven, Rudy Inlet, which is like some of our big saltwater inlets around here. And then we'd go out in the bay too. So I have had, I don't know how many boats I've had, which is maybe a good or a bad thing. I've kind of lost count, but started smaller and then started buying boats and then started fishing them, then started flipping them and selling them. So right now I've got my main boat's a 21 foot center console Key West. And then I've got a 16-foot Carolina skiff. We fish inshore, which is a little easier. Then I've got a jet ski, a Sea-Doo that I sometimes fish off. So kind of varies where we're going, mostly fishing off my bigger boat. But down here, man, in the Chesapeake Bay and just Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads area, what I really like is, you just see so many people fishing, which is really cool. It's a huge fishing community, right? But a lot of times people don't care what they're fishing in, right? I know around here there is a lot of money, and you'll see these, $250,000 boats going out there fishing, going for cobia, and then you'll see a 15-foot John boat who's catching a cobia right next to them, which is really cool, right? Because you don't always need, top of the top bells and whistles to go catch fish. That being said, you want to be safe of how you're doing it. But when you go to, like Lynn Haven Inlet, the ramp, main popular one out that feeds in the Chesapeake Bay on a Saturday, you'll see everything, man. You'll see the $500,000 boat with the triple outboards, and then you'll see a dude with an inflatable raft pumping it up right next to him, sending it out to go fishing, So it's always a unique variety of boats you'll see down here, but it is cool. And 100%, like you said, started off with a small John boat and worked my way up. And I don't have the biggest, nicest boat in the world, but definitely fit that stereotype there.
How has the bay changed over the years? I mean, the one thing I remember is the striper and the blues being dominant. And now with the warm water that we're getting now, shrimp are now a big thing. Redfish and speck seem like they're year round if we don't have a super cold winter.
Yeah. So the like you said, striper, when we had some of those good years, I mean, I remember back in high school, we'd go out and we'd catch, 40-inch fish all day long. And my dad was born and raised here in Virginia Beach area, and he tells the stories back in the 80s and 90s where they'd go out and he said, you catch a 45-inch striper, throw it in the boat. Next cast, you catch a 50-inch and you're throwing your 45 back that you just caught. And it was just nonstop, right? So over the years, we've seen such a more consistent, warmer water temperature here in the bays and a lot of our inlets that's pushed a lot of those stripers, the big ones, up more north, right? But with that warmer water, the Chesapeake Bay is just an unbelievable ecosystem. I think it's one of the best fisheries personally on the East Coast. And just the amount and variety of fish that we have. Specifically, we're known for down here, the cobia fishing in Chesapeake Bay, right? You have people traveling across the country. Truthfully, I know so many charter guys, people booking, in Texas and Minnesota and Kansas coming out here to cobia fish in the bay, which is really cool. But something I truly like about just our area and inshore inlets, but in the bay, is there's such a variety of fish, right? And every day you can go out and target a different species of fish. And in the summertime, of course, your main ones are going to be your cobia, your flounder, the bull reds, sheep's head, which are really your big ones in the summertime. But you can go out, you can go look for sea bass, you can go look for striper, you can look for redfish, inshore, togfish, obviously depending on season. But there's just such a variety that the Chesapeake Bay has to offer that to me is so intriguing, because nothing against bass fishing at all, but I couldn't imagine going out every day and just catching bass. And after a while, it's like, all right, let's shift things up, right? So that's what intrigues me about saltwater. There's so many different changing environments in the ecosystem: water temperatures, wind pressure, currents, water temperature, air pressure, currents, tides. So that to me is what's fascinating about the Chesapeake Bay. It's a constantly changing ecosystem and just such a wide variety of fish to target.
How has the inshore fishing evolved? Like you said, I mean, it's crazy. Is the inshore bite, at least, as I remember back to my childhood, wasn't like it was today. And maybe it's just because the kayak boom is now in full tilt, but it seems like there's a lot more inshore species to target now.
Yeah, I think over the years you've seen a lot more popularity on the inshore bite, specifically kind of with the develop of kayaks and how popular those are now. And there's a ton of local YouTubers around here who solely just kayak fish, and 90% of their videos are going to be inshore. Some of those guys go out to the first island in the Chesapeake Bay, but there's a lot more visibility in our inlets and the Elizabeth River specifically too. But, I think with the warmer water temperature over the past, I'd say 10 years, has really just taken off down here, and the red bite specifically, almost year round. Of course, in the winter when that water temperature really is dropping into the low 30s, that bite's going to really drop off. But almost year round, you're still catching redfish. It's trying to find bait, see where they are. But if you find them, you're going to get them to bite. Perfect example, in January this past year, water temperature was 27 degrees. We had a cold front come through and killed some trout. We had some floaters on top. and me and my buddy went out and we caught like 47 redfish in 3 hours and 27-degree temperature, right? So there's a lot of unknowns. Like I said, man, I'm not a marine biologist to know all the scientific side behind it, but I think definitely the popularity with kayak fishers has kind of increased the awareness, if you will, inshore. And also, redfish is what's most popular, I'd say, around here. But Elizabeth River, which is the river right near us, I actually run the Elizabeth River fishing group we have around this community. But truthfully, the river is one of the best estuaries on the East Coast for speckled trout, and that bite's going to really start taking off here in the next couple of weeks, in a month. And that's something that I'm truly passionate about. Speckled trout. There's nothing like it, and to have the Elizabeth River in our backyard is something I'm excited for. To be taking off and maybe get you down here and we'll do some fishing.
That's crazy, man. I did not know about that with Elizabeth. Like how do you break the bay down? Because I know people like upper, lower, middle. Like, how do you label it?
Yeah. So to be honest with you, everybody's got a different definition, if you will. So I don't fish the middle and upper by any means, but I always consider like the lower, starting like a little north of like Cape Charles, kind of Rappahannock River around there. But anything in, south of Cape Charles to Hampton side down to Virginia Beach, that's all the lower bay for us. But I know people up north might have a different definition, but I do 99% of my fishing down in this area, what we call the lower bay. So I think it probably varies depending on who you ask.
Okay, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Guys, so while we're recording this, I don't know the name of the damn hurricane. I can't keep up with it, but there's a hurricane that's going to be coming upon us here. How do these events affect tidal fisheries and ocean and bays compared to, like, I know kind of how it will affect a river or a lake, but what are you guys expecting?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of unknowns. So it's Hurricane Aaron that's due to pass here off the coast of Virginia Beach, Outer Banks tomorrow afternoon, evening. And there's a lot of unknowns, right? Because you see the forecasts of, we're expecting 10, 12-foot surges, and you're going to have a couple inches to up to a foot of rain. So it really depends of what type of impacts we have when the time comes. So I know we're going to have some flooding inshore, and you're going to be having a ton of water pressure and air pressure, wind pressure built up through the storm. It tends to push a lot of the inshore fish further inshore with that rising water. The bay is going to be interesting. Sometimes when these hurricanes pass, depending on the angle and position of where they're coming in, it'll push some fish up more north into the bay, right? It could sometimes push them further south, depending on the wind pressure. So, it's kind of hard to answer because it could lock the bite up for a week or two. Or I've also, had a hurricane pass, and 2 days later we had Cobia jumping in the boat, right? So it's really a hard question to answer until really after it comes to see what the impacts are. But definitely expecting a lot of flooding in the local inlets. The tides, currents are going to be kind of all over the place. You're going to, of course, have terrible water clarity, specifically inshore. But I'm hoping in the next week after so it starts to recover and we get back to it. But we'll see what happens after this thing passes.
Because I think the last hurricane we mentioned before we started recording here, it really did a number on the back bay. I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, but my memory is not great. I guess it really just depends on the size of the hurricane and what it can do. But I guess the back bay is a completely different thing because it's a freshwater estuary compared to the Chesapeake proper.
Yeah.
Cobia fishing is interesting, and this is probably just because I just had Getting Jiggy with It on Tackle talking about the Cobia tournaments and the Cobia pressure of the 10 years. How is that fishery doing? Because I don't know if it's because of social media, the affordability of smaller crafts, knowledge, but it seems like there's a higher pressure on them.
Yes, 100%. And I was actually just talking with some of my buddies the other day on this. And, the Cobia fishing in the bay the past 10 years has been unbelievable, right? But I think the past couple of years we've seen a slight decline, and I think that is as a result of the amount of pressure that we have out there. And this is no disrespect to anybody in our area, but Cobia fishing has become so popular that there is a infinite amount of charter captains now who are coming out here and are out in the bay every day and killing fish every day, that I'm completely not against, keeping a kill fish. But it's nothing like what we saw, 5-10 years ago, right? You'd see some of the main charter guys out there and some recreational and whatever, some guys out there for fun. But like you go out on a week, I won't cobia fish on the weekend at all because it's a zoo out there. You'll go out north of the third and fourth up in the channel, and there's literally so much pressure and so many boats. So, I think this has probably been the biggest impact and kind of overall. There comes spurts, right? You'll have weeks where the bite's great and it's slow, just like fishing in general. But I've seen so much pressure on the cobia, the bite up here, I think this year. I think it's just due to the amount of people fishing, the amount of fish being killed per day. And I don't know. Like I said, I don't mean any disrespect to anybody up here because, if you're doing everything legally, that's fine. But there's a lot of legal charters, I guess, or illegal charters and people just popping up and killing fish every day. And it's just, I don't know. It's something like we hadn't seen for years. It's just becoming more and more popular. And you're getting some big YouTubers up down here from Florida and videos getting millions and millions of views, which is great, right? I mean, I love the Chesapeake Bay. I love what we have to offer, but I just think it's seeing a whole different level of pressure than what we've seen really ever.
High level, are the cobia inhabitants of just Chesapeake Bay, are they migratory?
No, they'll move. So like they'll come up here. It varies by year, of course, water temperatures, but they'll typically come up here and you'll see them off the Carolinas in March. And then April, we start seeing them off the coast of Virginia Beach on the oceanfront side. And they'll start moving their way back up into the bay, really into May, June, July, August, September. Our season closes here mid-September. And then you'll start seeing them starting to move and find that warmer water temperature and start moving south. So, we got another about a month or so before the season closes. So hopefully this storm doesn't push the bite out too far right before the end of the season.
It's crazy, man. Like it's such a hub, and it's so interesting talking about saltwater pressure. That's the one thing when I started to really get more and more into the saltwater community, they talk about overfishing and pressure. And I come from the bass side and the freshwater side where we talk about that a lot, but it's all catch and release, generally speaking. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting when you're talking about so many species that it's catch and take and how pressure can affect that, which I can see why people are very protective of these fisheries for that reason, for sure.
Huh. Yeah, and like I said, it's no disrespect because if you're going to go out, you're going to catch a kill fish. It's legal within Virginia restrictions. I'm all for that, right? But there's a difference when you have a couple boats out there doing that. Now you have 100, 150 a day going out there, right? So it's just like I said, it's truthfully an amount of pressure that we haven't seen in years. So I hope we keep getting fish coming up here and they keep spawning and keep growing. And I'm big for tag and release, right? I'm never that type of guy who's going to keep everything or release everything, but completely respect our ecosystem and understanding how important it is to put fish back at times and help them spawn for years to come. So we'll see what happens.
So what do you have going on in your world right now?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. Work slammed right now. Got my oldest just turned 7, the youngest about to turn 3. But the most exciting thing actually is, like I said, I run the Elizabeth River Fishing Group, and we're actually starting to plan our 3rd annual Speckled Trout Tournament here.
Oh, cool.
And we're looking for, I think it's November 8th right now, but we're working with the city on insurance permits, licenses. There's a lot that goes into setting that all up, but we're really excited for that. And anybody watching, if you're local here, it's a tournament we put on through the group, and 100% of proceeds are donated to St. Jude's Children's Hospital, which is really cool. Have a great team of guys who help me out. We don't put a penny in our pocket. And it's a really great opportunity. We bring out a lot of local small companies sponsors who come out and help put on the event and give back. And so we have on-site sponsor booths at weigh-ins. And then I just think it's really cool. We have a lot of local anglers come together and have a fun time fishing, but most importantly, give back to the community. So really passionate and humble to be a part of that. So to answer that question, that's kind of taken up a lot of my time right now. There's so much that goes into the planning. Don't know if you've ever been part of a tournament and the logistics, and when the city's involved, there's a lot more than just going out there and setting up a card table, So
it's a stressful, thankless job.
Yes, it is. And this is the 3rd year we've done it. And, the first year I was like, all right, let's just do it. A lot of people were like, hey, put a tournament on. I'm like, yeah, it'd be fun. And then once you get into the weeds of how much it requires, Not from a complaining side, but I think a lot of people don't realize how much goes into it behind the scenes. But that being said, it's really fun. It's a great time to meet a lot of new people in the group in the area I've never met, and then bring out local anglers, local companies, and like I said, most importantly, give back to the community and kids fighting cancer and families. That's what I'm extremely passionate about. So that's what's taking up a lot of my time, trying to get some time fishing at the same time. But looking forward to that coming up here in the next couple months.
How do those tournaments? Is it like catch, photo, measure, release, catch and take? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so ours is we don't do the catch and release by the photo. So like I said, specifically with trout in the river, I'm a big opponent of the catch and release, because the pressure that we were just talking about for Cobia in the bay, I would say the pressure for trout in the river specifically is 5 times worse. I mean, it's so crazy what it used to be. So the way our tournament's structured is we do winnings based off a 3-bag weight limit. And we encourage anglers to come in, weigh their fish, and release. We have live release tanks on site, which is really cool. So come in, weigh the fish, put them in the release tank, and then we'll release those back. But our tournament committee feels that, of course, if you're keeping fish within Virginia state regulations, that I personally am not going to tell you can't keep legal fish, right? So it's kind of, I'd say 60-40, maybe 70-30% of 70% people releasing, which is really cool. And then 30% of people keeping, and that varies. But that was really cool. This past year was the first year we incorporated the release tank, and that was really cool. We had some volunteers from VRMC out there doing a tag and release program, so we're getting some data for the state there. So that was really cool, and we released hundreds of fish, which is really cool to see them put back, and it was a really good tournament.
You think those tournaments are become more popular in saltwater? The catch, weigh, catch, photo, release for reds and specs and things like that?
Yes, I don't think it'll ever, at least for us around here, I don't think it'll still ever measure to a lot of the big bass tournaments, right? That's a whole different level than what we have around here. Like, there's a couple redfish tournaments in Virginia Beach. There's 1 or 2 striper tournaments that I know, but in general, they're all kind of relatively small. Like last year we had 100 plus anglers, which was a good turnout, but we're not having, bass tournaments with hundreds of people out there, like you have in Richmond and down in the Carolinas and stuff like that. But I think they are starting to become more popular. And, some of these, the way our tournament's structured is 100% of payouts are donated by obviously just the winnings, right? So a lot of the tournaments around here is 100% payouts just to the winner. So you'd have 50% to first place, for example, 30 to second place, and 20 to third. We have set limits from the beginning, right? So we have, hey, whatever the first, second, third place is, and then everything else 100% is donated to St. Jude. So it all depends. Tournaments are different, and I think they are coming a little popular, but still probably no comparison to a lot of the bass tournaments that are nationwide and then just throughout Virginia and Carolina too.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah, because I just feel like you see that in the bass world, and I wonder like how much bleed over there is with things into the saltwater community, like live scope. Like, I mean, is that even a thing that people do in saltwater compared to fresh?
So yes, that's a whole nother topic that I got to be careful on. So live scope, and I don't want to offend any bass fishermen on here. So live scope is definitely becoming more popular here.
Really?
Inshore and then out in the bay. So a lot of the guys, it kind of became popular a couple years ago for sheep's head. I remember the guys, Jesse with Southern Reel is a buddy of mine. He's a big YouTuber around here. He runs charter captains or charters. And he was one of the first guys around here who had the live scope, and you hit the pylons, and obviously you can see right where these fish are at, and then you're dialed right in on the fish. And now a lot more people are starting to get it. It's becoming more popular. It's really big on kayaks inshore. People are looking for like schools of reds and trouts, striper too. But I personally do not have live scope. I have different opinions than some people. And like I said, I'm not going to offend anybody, but I'm all for the development of technology and enhancing fishing and capabilities. But kind of what bothers me is when you see fishermen, freshwater or salt, whatever it is, when they're 99% solely relying on technology to catch fish, right? Like, you see so many guys, looking up on their screen and they're on their trolling motor and they're just staring down at their graph the whole day. And then it's like every hour they cast that they find one. And there's nothing against that. But personally, I find more interest in like the fight and trying to find the fish, right? I have side scan, I have depth finders, right? But I'm not specifically saying, all right, the fish is right here. Oh, he's moving right here. No, cast right here. I mean, trying to find schools, trying to understand water temperatures, currents, finding bait, freshwater and saltwater differently, right? But so I'm not the biggest fan of live scope, and I mean no disrespect towards anybody on here who's using it, but like I said, it just bothers me when I see so many people now buying it and just like solely relying on catching fish just using live scope. So I think there should be kind of a balance. Again, there's nothing wrong if you're using it, but I don't see anywhere in my near future of me putting it on my boat. We'll see what happens.
Does it actually give you guys like a benefit for the way you fish and the style? Like, I mean, I just see pulling through like a marsh flat. Like, what is the benefit?
Yeah. So it's funny you bring that up. So I actually, one of my last videos I just put out, I was with my buddy and he just got live scope on his boat. And so we were out on the Chesapeake Bay fishing around the islands for the bull red. So they're the big redfish. And this time of year, they'll pop up at the surface in the afternoons and they're feeding on crabs or menhaden. But they'll typically school up on the islands. And he had live scope. He said, hey, let's go out. Let's see if we can find the fish. We're casting live bait on them. And I was like, all right, we'll give it a shot. And I think we caught like 27 fish in a couple hours. Damn. And it was really cool because I've never really fished too much with live scope. I was more intrigued to just kind of checking it out. And you can see in the video some I put out, he's looking at the screen. There's no fish. There's no fish. We'd cast. There's nothing. And you just turn it and like, all right, there's a massive school 20 feet off the boat. We'd cast right on them and hook up. So don't get me wrong. It's That's fun, crazy. Right? Because it's going to put you right on the fish, but obviously kind of takes out some of the timing and effort that was going to fish. So to answer your question specifically, I mean, for the bull reds, the live scope's great. The sheep's head, that's what's probably one of the most popular that people are using up here in the Chesapeake Bay. They'll come up right up on, I mean, the Chesapeake Bay Bridge has, I think it's over 5,000 pylons on it. So, you just go to one pylon, you're looking and there's nothing on the screen. You go to the next one, you can be 30 feet of water, you see nothing. Or you're throwing a bottom sweeper rig down there at the bottom, no bites, and you look at the screen, well, they're 10 feet off the surface, right? So then you're reeling up, oh, we're on, right? Where some other guy just rolls up, he's not going to know that. So it's definitely come popular sheep's head, and then I'm starting to see the past couple of years, specifically in the river, Elizabeth River here, and then kind of inshore for trout and reds too, working up on the flats and the oyster beds and come up, you just see these massive schools and you cast right on them. So it's definitely starting to come more popular here, but I still don't think it's probably as big as a lot of the bass guys. I know you're definitely more of a bass fisherman, but like all the YouTube videos or stuff I just see on social media, I feel like every bass boat has live scope on it now too. So not sure how accurate that is.
No, it's fairly accurate assessment, especially for tournament fishing when money's on the line. And I guess it also depends on the style too, on how you're fishing them. If you're fishing deeper, like pelagic species, like, yeah, scope is killer. If you're punching grass, like how much of a benefit it is. But I do think there's that weird vibe of if you're dealing with a species that's catch and release versus put and take, basically, crappie, walleye, redfish, specks, like how much of an impact does that have on the fishery? And that I'm fascinated as time goes on and more studies are created to see what happens with that.
Yeah.
When you look at the bay, like where do you see it in a couple of years?
I'm hoping it's still one of the best ecosystems on the East Coast. My biggest concern really right now is probably the potential impacts and decrease we see in the cobia that continue to work their way up here every year. And like I said, it just seems like every year, past couple of years has gotten dropped in numbers. I mean, there's still fish up here, don't get me wrong, but it's not like what it used to be. But I'm hoping just we continue to get this water pressure, hold the fish up here longer. Concerned of, I won't go into details, but the amount of bait that's being taken out of the bay. And that's a brief conversation we had earlier, but we're seeing a lot of potential impacts, inshore and offshore of how much just, the removal of thousands and hundreds of thousands of bait fish is impacting, the bite, if it's pushing fish out of the bay or if it's, trying to locate the fish and trying to locate bait that's not as fluent as it used to be. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think since I was a kid, the flounder bite has always been unreal in Chesapeake Bay. There's so many honey holes that I have that you'll never see me put a video out on, right? Because those are secret to me. But the redfish, the trout, the sheep's head, the striper, that bite's been good since I've been in high school. We've seen cold stuns come in and impact trout in the river, and hurricanes or warm weather impact the bite from a week to week standpoint. But just inshore and in general out in the bay, it just seems like every year it just continues to get better, right? Maybe excluding cobia, but it's just these fish are it's just a one in a million type of place. I don't know how else to put it.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the specs in the cold because we had one of those coldest winters of all time kind of thing last year where the Susquehanna River and other rivers like froze solid. Like,
Yeah.
How bad was there a fish kill? I heard rumors about that when I was at the Raleigh Fishing Expo. Like, what happened?
So we had a somewhat of a cold sun in, I think it was late January. And I remember I actually went out on my jet ski that day because people were starting to put stuff online about, hey, there's thousands of dead trout floating around, and went out there, and it was, there was definitely dead fish out there, which I'd hate to see. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many upper 20s to 30-inch almost trout I was just seeing floating around everywhere, which was really discouraging to see. I will say, though, it was no comparison to the stolcon or cold stun we had in 2012. I was in high school my senior year, and in the Elizabeth River, which is an area where I fish, I remember there was thousands and thousands of fish, and I should send you a picture of it, that were just dead, floating up right up on the banks, and that impacted the bite for several years till we were able to recover from that. So thankfully, the kill that we had back in January was not anywhere close as bad as that. But what I'm hearing right now is, this year's bite might be a little difficult, what I'm hearing from some of my sources and other experts, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, when you get water temperatures that's sustaining in the low 20s for a substantial amount of time, it's just the fish just can't survive in that, right? And you just see the impacts, and hate to see it for years to come, So we'll see what happens this fall.
That'd be interesting. Like, what temperatures do they reds too? Like, I mean, I guess are redfish more cold water like savvy than
no? So they're warm blooded, so they're going to be. I mean, it's hard to say specifically. So one of my favorite times for reds is specifically, or inshore, is the spring bite, because most of the winter they're pretty lethargic, right? Their metabolism's very low, but when you start getting that water temperature start to spike, it's like a switch, right? And they just get so aggressive. So, I mean, February and March this past year was one of the best spring bites we've had in a couple years, and then kind of into the summertime, we say redfish are the bass of saltwater, right? I mean, there's redfish everywhere, inshore, offshore too, but specifically the rivers, Rudy Inlet, Lynn Haven. And, early mornings, especially when it's 90 to 100 degrees up here, early mornings on the flats is kind of really the best bait, or best spot to target them before that sun comes up. And then into the evenings. And I do a ton of night fishing, kind of back to what I was saying with 2 kids, married, and work. I don't have the best open schedule. So a lot of times, the kids are in bed and my wife's going to bed. It's 9 o'clock, and I roll out fishing and come back at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, then go to work. But the nighttime bite is unbelievable. I've caught all my PB inshore reds all at night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I personally like fishing a lot at night because, weekends or whenever it is a zoo out there, and I can't fish a lot of my spots because I don't need to see everybody out where I'm fishing. So it is cool to go out at night, but the specs, they're definitely biting when that water temperature is starting to drop. Like to see it at least in the low 50s to 40s is really kind of when the bite starts taking off. They'll hit in warmer temperatures, of course, and then colder as well. But to me, I think that sweet spot's in the low 50s, high 40s for me is some of my best fish.
Wow, that's crazy, man. You mentioned the flounder. I think North Carolina came out with new regulation. Is that a species people should be worried about protecting, or what's going on with that?
Yeah, so I can't speak too much about why exactly North Carolina did that. I've got buddies down there that stating that, the state's coming back and saying based off all their data and research, there's been a decline in fish. And like I said, I can't speak to that. Up here, we we don't have that problem. I mean, there's so many spots inshore you can catch flounder. There's wrecks. There's structure out in the bay, up north more in the bay. So I have never, I'll say since I've been a kid fishing, I've never seen any type of really collective global impact in this area on flounder. So it does intrigue me where exactly all this data and statistics is coming from North Carolina to state, hey, we're going to put a restriction on them. So I really don't know, but I do find that very intriguing that they push that.
Yeah, that's interesting because these states don't really communicate with each other about what they're seeing or what's going on. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Speaking of change, the one thing that's in the news a lot, and I believe I'm going to get don't worry, I'm going to get somebody on to talk about this if possible, about the Senate bill about sharks and about trying to figure out a way to control their population, especially the Gulf states and the Carolinas. Is that something that's a thing, especially in Chesapeake Bay, or is that very much Carolinas down south that they're a problem for guides and people like yourself?
I would say in general in the Bay, they're not too much of a problem unless you're specifically bottom fishing, like for bulls or cobia. So 95+% everybody for cobia up here are sight casts and form on towers, right? But if you're bottom fishing for them with cut bait or eels, like you're going to be 90+% of the time you're hooking up on a shark, right? And then you might hook up on a cobia. Wow. There's a ton of skates and stingrays and stuff. That's another problem, bottom fishing. But I would say in general, like in inshore, like you see Carolinas and Floridas, there's not like this overpopulation of sharks that are taking over the fishery and ecosystem. So they're definitely out there. And shoot, my buddy just caught I think it was an 8-9 foot bull shark the other day. They were out fishing, or actually at night. So there is a lot of fish. I know there's, we've seen a couple of great whites off the coast of Cape Henry, about 10 miles out the past couple of years, which has been cool. But no, there's no infestation, if you will, of sharks here.
That's good to know. That's really good to know. If people want to enter your tournament, I'll put a link in the episode description. What do they specifically need to join? Just you want to give that whole spiel?
Yeah. So again, the third annual tournament, it hasn't come out officially yet, but once it does, you can find it on the Elizabeth River Fishing Group Facebook page, and there'll be a registration form. You click a button, you can scan the QR code, pulls you up, and it's $50 registration per person. And fill out the registration form. You send that to the team. We get you guys loaded up, and that's all it takes. There's no check-in times in the morning. We do it on a centralized location on the river, but we want to allow everybody fishing as much as possible. Excuse me. So we'll have all the details. We're restructuring some of what we did the past couple of years to hopefully increase the experience for all of our anglers. But it'll be announced the next couple weeks in the group, and then you'll have the registration form, tournament rules, everything in there. So definitely be on the outlook for that next couple weeks.
There you guys go. Link in the episode description to that as well. I really appreciate you coming on. This was just an hors d'oeuvre to kind of get us into what's going on in the Chesapeake. Do you have any idea of what your next YouTube video is going to be coming out?
I'm actually backlogged a little bit. So I got a cobia one I need to edit. I got another flounder one, and got kind of some how-to videos and doing some boat projects. So there'll be one out probably within the next week or so. I'm not sure which one it'll be, but I guess we'll be on the outlook. You guys will be as surprised as me when it comes out.
That's kind of fun though. You can bounce around. You don't have to just do 38 cobia videos in a row, which I could see become kind of tedious.
Yeah. And I do some, boat videos and flips and how-to videos, working on boats, stuff like that. So sometimes I try to implement those more into the channel, but after a while, those kind of get boring because the passion's really in fishing, right? All right. So I'm like, all right, let's go out. We'll shoot some content on fishing and not work on an outboard motor, but you might see one of those pop up too.
Dude, awesome stuff. Yeah. Sir, no, thank you so much. I mean, I really appreciate you coming on today. As always, guys, link in the episode description, everything we talked about. Is there anything that we could promote with you or anything people should go check out?
No, man, just appreciate if you guys check out the channel, Triways Fishing on YouTube. I appreciate the support, and really thanks for having me on, man. I had a fun time talking about fishing, and hopefully maybe here soon we'll get you down here in Chesapeake, Virginia Beach area, go out and do some fishing, trout fishing, cobia, whatever you want.
No, dude, I would love to do that. And then guys, go check out that area. Norfolk is an amazing place. There's so many fishing opportunities, not just in freshwater, but in the salt. And link in the episode description. Please subscribe to his channel, and we will see you next time on Fishing the DMV. Bye. You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.